This baby will change everything, and I'm pregnant. That voice rang out just as the MC was about to invite my husband and me onto the stage to give our thank you speech. All eyes were on us, and then, in a single heartbeat, everything turned upside down. Cassie, my husband's sister, stood there, gripping the microphone with both hands as if accepting a prestigious award. Her dress clung tightly, her makeup flawless, not unlike a second bride preparing to take center stage. I froze, not because she was pregnant, but because she chose her brother's wedding day to announce it. The crowd clapped, some unfamiliar guests even laughed, thinking this was a charming interlude in the wedding festivities. But for my husband and me, it was a blatant slap in the face, a violation of the basic respect one could offer family. I looked at my husband. He gripped my hand tightly. His eyes didn't leave his sister. I could feel something boiling inside him, not embarrassment, but rage. And then, while Cassie was still thanking the family for their unwavering support, Isaac, Cassie's husband, stood up. He walked straight to the stage. His voice wasn't loud, but it was so clear that every sound in the wedding hall fell silent. Cassie, that baby isn't mine, and you know it. The microphone dropped to the floor, sounding like thunder. No one spoke. No one moved. As for me, I didn't know if I was breathing or holding my breath. I'll never forget the first time I met Cassie. It was the first dinner I was invited to at my then boyfriend's house. Everyone seemed pleasant, except Cassie. She only glanced at me over the rim of her wine glass, her eyes devoid of any warmth. At the time, I told myself, maybe she's just tired or wary of strangers. But no, later, I realized that look was the first sign of envy I was too naive to recognize. My husband's family, to put it bluntly, blatantly favored Cassie. She was the eldest daughter, once seen as the family's pride, but then she hastily married Isaac, a quiet man, not overly ambitious, who didn't earn as much as the family had hoped. From the moment my husband and I started dating, his parents would casually compare. Emma is polite, well-mannered. She works in banking. She must know how to manage money. She's so bright, not like someone who rushed into love and married recklessly. I never joined in those conversations, but I could clearly sense Cassie's gaze growing colder, more mocking, and sometimes quietly hostile. When we got engaged, she said in front of everyone, "Oh, that was quick. Dating and now marrying, probably pregnant already, huh?" I just smiled. But that night, I cried alone. Cassie started spreading rumors behind my back that I was fake, that I was trying to win over my in-laws for their wealth, that my job wasn't as clean as I claimed, though I was just a finance employee at a private company. My husband knew, and he defended me fiercely multiple times. But that only made Cassie hate me more. In her eyes, I was a thief, stealing her parents' attention, her brother's love, and the center stage position she once held. And then, on my wedding day, a day meant for my husband and me, Cassie arrived an hour late, wearing an ivory dress that was almost indistinguishable from a wedding gown. When I saw her enter the reception hall, a thought flashed through my mind. She's definitely going to do something. But I never imagined she'd grab the microphone and announce her pregnancy during the most crucial part of the ceremony. Cassie didn't just want attention. She wanted to crush me, right where I was supposed to be happiest. The moment Cassie announced her joyful news, with a smug smile, I thought everything would collapse. The spotlight shone on her as if she were the star of the event. But then Isaac, Cassie's husband, stepped onto the stage, slowly, holding a glass of champagne he hadn't yet sipped. He didn't grab the microphone or shout. He just looked at Cassie for a long moment before speaking in a dry, chilling voice. "You forgot to mention, that baby isn't mine, and you know it." The chatter dissolved as if sucked out of the hall. Everything went deathly quiet. Even the background music stopped at some point. An elderly guest at the table to the left dropped their fork onto their plate, making a jarring clatter. I glanced at my mother-in-law. She stood but couldn't move forward. My father-in-law gripped the armrest of his chair tightly, as if he no longer knew who to believe. Isaac turned to the crowd, his eyes filled with pain but calm. "I've known about this for weeks. There's evidence. There are messages. There's a video. And I was waiting to see how far you'd go." You chose your brother's wedding day to stage a cheap drama. So now, I'm ending it. A few guests stood and left. Others exchanged awkward, confused glances. No one knew how to handle the situation, because this was no longer a wedding. It was a public family explosion. Cassie stood frozen. Then, after a few seconds, as if snapping awake, she screamed, not to apologize, but to deflect blame. She pointed at me, her eyes blazing like someone unhinged. It's her. It's because of her that everything's like this. She took everything, my parents' affection, everyone's attention, and now even my brother. She made me feel invisible in my own family. I didn't respond. For the first time, I looked at Cassie not with anger, but with pity for a soul consumed by envy. I thought it would end there, but it didn't. 3 days later, I received the first email. No subject, just one line. I hope you won't live a single day in peace, with the title of The One Loved More Than Me. And then came a flood of emails, anonymous, half threatening, half filled with resentment, but anyone who read them would know Cassie's voice. She didn't need a reason to hate me, other than the fact that I existed and didn't break as she'd hoped. I once thought that, no matter what, family was unbreakable. Despite conflicts or misunderstandings, blood is still blood. I believed that until Cassie tore apart every thread of connection with actions that were not only toxic but dangerous. After the wedding incident, my husband and I barely slept that night. Not out of grief, but because years of suppressed emotions were finally laid bare. Isaac, Cassie's husband, filed for divorce just 5 days after our wedding. He sent a copy to my in-laws without a single note. The filing stated, unable to continue cohabitation due to infidelity, severe emotional harm, and systematic dishonesty. Cassie didn't show up to the first hearing. Isaac's lawyer said she was too exhausted to participate, but I knew she was just reeling from no one shielding her for the first time. My mother-in-law, the one who always defended Cassie at every family dinner, now said quietly, I never thought Cassie would go this far. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. I didn't need an apology. I just needed them to see the truth, and this time, they did. As for me, I handed all the threatening emails, filled with Cassie's unmistakable venom, to my lawyer. We didn't make a big deal of it, but we sent a strongly worded legal warning, demanding Cassie cease all harassment or face prosecution for threats and privacy invasion. I know she read it, because from that day on, there were no more messages, no more emails. That silence, strangely, was the first gift of peace she ever gave me. And then, my husband, the kind man who always tried to mediate, sat at the dining table, looked me in the eyes, and said, I won't let you live another day under that woman's shadow. From now on, Cassie is no longer part of our lives. We blocked all contact with her, deleted her number, removed her from the family group chat, didn't invite her to Christmas, Thanksgiving, or any family gatherings. My in-laws hesitated at first, but after Cassie kept blaming everyone, claiming they all ganched up to hate a lonely pregnant woman, they made their final decision. They cut her off. There was no ceremony, no formal disowning letter. Just, from that day on, her name was no longer mentioned in any conversation. I wasn't gleeful, but I was relieved. Because after years of being blamed, slandered, and lied about, I no longer had to explain or endure. Cassie chose her path, and now she must walk it alone. No one to back her, no one to defend her. I learned to shift, to move beyond a defensive state and step into a new life, one where I no longer live to please others. My husband and I, the only man who stood by me from start to finish, decided to leave the city. We sold our old apartment, packed our things, and moved to a small riverside town where no one knows the name Cassie, where no one cares about anyone's past, only how you live today. We rented a simple wooden house with a backyard and a vegetable garden, waking each morning to birdsong instead of mocking messages. There, I learned to set boundaries, not just with Cassie, but with anyone who ever used my kindness as a doormat to step on and wipe clean. I learned to say no, to refuse, and most importantly, I learned not to feel guilty for being loved. My husband, he changed too. He's no longer the man carrying both sides, trying to please his sister and family while quietly defending me. Now, he's direct, clear, and ready to shut the door on anyone who hurts his wife. And Cassie? She vanished from the radar for a while. But like all toxic people, her silence wasn't remorse, it was resentment simmering quietly. Acquaintances said she's living alone, raising her child without Isaac, without family support, and without anyone believing her words. My in-laws, once staunch defenders of her, now don't mention her name at family gatherings. I once saw my mother-in-law wipe away tears when talking about the grandchild she can't see, but she never blamed me. She only said, "We all pay a price for how we treat others." Cassie's no exception. Once, I saw Cassie from a distance at a weekend market. She was much thinner, with dark circles under her eyes, holding the hand of a small child in worn clothes. She saw me. I know she did. But she turned away, hurrying as if fleeing her own reflection in my gaze. At that moment, I didn't feel triumphant. I just saw that outcome didn't come from a curse. It came from the bitter choices she sowed herself. In the past, I was the one envied just for not fighting back. Now, I'm the one respected, not because I struck back, but because I set clear boundaries and never stepped back. Cassie once thought she had everything: status, attention, family love. Now she has nothing: no husband, no honor, no trust from anyone. And I, once her shadow, am now truly called daughter-in-law by my husband's family with a respect I never thought I'd have. I escaped the storm, and the most miraculous thing is, I didn't carry anger with me. Just, I know better than ever where the boundaries lie and where freedom begins. Have you ever met someone like Cassie, always stirring trouble though you did nothing to hurt them? Would you forgive or choose to cut ties like Emma? Share your story in the comments, because you might inspire someone who needs your strength. Like, comment, and subscribe to support stories that expose deceit and champion honesty, values worth hearing and protecting.